If you're like me, you have noticed the prices in the grocery store are going up really quick. And it's beginning to cause a stress and a strain on our grocery budget here at my house. I'm trying to come up with new ways to save money on our grocery bill, and I thought that I would share a couple of those simple tips with you today. Welcome back to Homemade Simple. I'm so glad you're here today. I know that if you are watching this video, you are interested in learning how to save some money on your grocery bill every week. I have a couple of tips. Maybe some of them will be helpful for you. I think that these have really helped me to save a little bit every week, which really begins to add up over time. Tip number one is stop buying pre-packaged goods. A lot of times if we are needing a quick dessert, we will run to the store and get a box of brownies or cake mix and go home and whip that up. It's quick and easy, but really if you go and make your own cake and brownie mix, you can do it ahead of time and you can do it very simply and affordably. Another thing that I like to do is make my own seasonings. I like to use a lot of taco seasoning. People a lot of times will buy those paper packages of taco seasoning and pour it into their meat. I have learned that chili powder and cumin mixed together with maybe a little bit of salt and onion powder or garlic powder will taste exactly like that pack of taco seasoning that cost 70 cents. And I do it for a fraction of the cost. So if you learn how to do things from scratch, you will save all kinds of money and it will add up quick. Tip number two, grow your own herbs and vegetables. It's really simple to grow your own herbs and vegetables, even indoors. If you do not have any room outside to grow things like big squash plants or tomato plants, you can still grow your own food indoors, and it's very simple. I have this rosemary plant. If I'm ever stressed out because of a really busy and hectic day, I can come and take a smell of my rosemary and it's very calming. So not only is it pretty to look at, it's really good in different culinary uses, but it's also got a calming aspect to the smell, and so that is a really good plant to have on your windowsill. Also, basil is a very easy plant to grow. It is also very aromatic and it just adds a really nice flavor to any Italian or chicken dish. We like to have basil pesto sandwiches, and this is a very important ingredient. Those small containers of pesto can cost up to $4 or $5 a piece. And with this plant, I can make my own at a fraction of that cost and still have more for the next time. So I would highly recommend that you begin to grow some of your own herbs indoors. I've also started this cilantro in this small planter. It's maybe a 5 or 6 inch planter. I have put it on my windowsill and it is starting to grow. It won't be long and I will thin out the different seedlings and so that it's not so crowded in there, and hopefully this will grow into a really substantial amount of cilantro just inside the kitchen. We use cilantro every single week, so it will really help to save money on our grocery budget if I don't have to buy the cilantro at the store. Also, last week we had some romaine lettuce, and after I had used all of the lettuce, I kept the root ball and I put it into a cup of water. I just wanted to see what would happen. Well, in a week's time, this has grown a substantial amount of lettuce, and of course it's not going to feed all 6 of us with a huge salad, but it is enough to make a couple of sandwiches with, and we got that for free just by not throwing away the romaine root and putting it in water instead. Also, if you have any potatoes that have the eyes that are beginning to grow out and become a little bit of a root, put it into a bucket of dirt. That potato will become a harvest of potatoes in just a few months. So that is a really good way of using something that we normally would throw into the garbage to provide our family with meals on down the road. Tip number 3 is always say yes when someone offers you their fresh grown vegetables. Growing a garden is a lot of work, and when you work that hard, you do not want to see any of your produce wasted. So a lot of times people will have much more produce coming from their garden than they can eat or preserve for their family. So if someone offers for you to have some of their harvest, be sure to take them up on that offer. If they are offering for you to have some of their harvest, also be willing to go and harvest it yourself. Not only will it give them a little bit of a break from all of the hot work that it is to be a gardener, but it will also teach you and your children the responsibility and the extra effort that it takes to have a garden and grow your own food. I think there would be so much less food waste if every American knew how much work really went into getting food on the table. And including our children in those kinds of activities will really help them in the long run. It'll help them see where their food comes from. It will also teach them to be hard workers, as well as to be appreciative for all of the extra effort that it takes to get a homegrown meal onto the table. Tip number 3 is find cheaper substitutes for expensive ingredients, especially meat. Sometimes we will have meatless meals, and those are the cheapest meals to make around here. But sometimes we don't want to have zero meat, so when we need to make our meat budget stretch further, we can do things like adding rice or pasta to help fill everybody up for less money. Also, if you are going for a meatless meal but still with plenty of protein, beans are a great substitute for chicken or ground beef, and they are really cheap, affordable, and easy to make, especially if you have an Instant Pot. So don't feel bad about reducing the amount of meat in your meals and making that meat stretch further. Nobody will even notice if you have some of these extras on the menu. Tip number 5, set a limit to how many times you're going to go out to eat, and do not go over. Our family really enjoys going out to eat, but it is really a budget buster. So we have to be very intentional about not overdoing it in the eat out category. So if we have a limit of once a week, that will really help us to save a substantial amount of money on the budget. Yes, it's easier to eat out, but it's not easier on the budget, and it's not difficult if we will think ahead and prepare ahead of time for when we're going to be out at a mealtime and carry a cooler full of food, and everybody will be satisfied. You can even make this a challenge for your family to come up with fun ways of eating in the car or stopping at a park. Just make sure that you're thinking ahead and you know where you're going to be and at what mealtime, so that you are not caught off guard and have to bust the budget by going to Chick-fil-A again because you forgot to prepare. It's really hard to remember all of the things that we have to think about as moms and homemakers, but this one is a really great way of saving money. Tip number 6, try to stretch that grocery trip 1 or 2 more days. If you can go 1 or 2 more days with food that you have on hand, that will really add up in the long run. If you do that 2 days every week, by the end of the month, you will have gained an entire week that you did not have to go to the grocery store. that means a lot of savings by the end of the year. And you didn't really have to do anything extra. In fact, it's probably less work if you can stretch the items that you have inside your home. It keeps you from having to go to the store an extra time. So try to be creative with the food that you have on hand and stretch that time between grocery visits, and that will give you a substantial savings in the long run. Well, I know you have a ton of helpful tips for saving money on groceries, and I hope that you will leave them in the comments below. I hope that you will like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I try to add new content every Friday, so if you are subscribed, you will be notified when new content is added. I'm really thankful that you're here. I love you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.